I picked it up myself.
Randy, if you'd like to come have a seat. Wyatt, if you'd like to come up.
You have your paperwork with you, Wyatt?
I do not.
I'm gonna let you use that, what's highlighted, I believe, is the areas that you're in.
Thank you.
My copy, go through it,
So, can you give us the complaints that you have on Randy's, please?
Yes. They were fastened in the incorrect order with the statement of economic interest filing being first instead of second. They were bounded at the corner instead of an edge. First bullet point. His signature was Randy Wallace instead of Randall Lee. He does not have a first paper file that states that he's also known as Randy or Randall Lee. Next one is date of election issue, as well as sheet numbering.
Basically, it was, all clerical.
Yep. Yes, I believe on his it was all.
Randy, you have any comments on any of his complaints? Objections?
No, sir.
Thank you.
Randy, are Randall Lee and Randall one and the same person? What is your legal name?
Randy.
Okay. You go by
First.
Randy.
Go ahead.
Any other questions, John? Okay, these two are done. So I guess we're to the position of how we're gonna make a board decision on this.
Unless there's any other evidence that anybody else wants to present in any of the other.
More evidence? Okay.
Wyatt, just for clarification for the record, I labeled all of the objections individually with case numbers. So, the objection to Randy's case is labeled 2021 EB election board 01. The second objection against Mr. Koonsman is labeled 2021 EB2. And the last objection against Mr. Bridges is labeled 2021 EB03, just for clarification, so there's no question on which one we're talking about.
Can you have adjourned, or do we need to go here?
You guys can have a conversation about what you're going to do. If you would like, you can do that in the closed session.
Okay.
The other option is you guys can ask what the case law suggests. I provided you all with copies of most of the cases that I've pulled, but
That's fine, I think we can do it here for that goes. Linda, we're gonna go down these individually. We're going to start with, Randy, he's at the table. Your thoughts?
Well, to me, he did sign at Randall Lee. He did insert Randy, but everything, his papers say Randall Lee. I don't see anything wrong with that.
Okay.
We're a small town and we need all the people we can to run for election. And in reading over this 10 ILCS, I did not find anything in all these papers that said they had to be filed in order with the statement, candidate's statement, and the statement of economic interest, and then the petitions.
Okay.
It did say that they're to be bound in the corner, being stapled, or being bound. Neatly fastened together in book form by placing the sheets in a pile and fastening together at the edge in a secure and suitable manner. They were fastened together at the edge in a secure and suitable manner. They were stapled. That's the way I have always done all the petitions in all these years. the staple them so I don't lose the papers.
Okay.
And Wyatt's was done that way also when I received it.
Mine was done differently, you pulled the statement
you-
and rearranged it.
No, I didn't rearrange it, you had paper clip on it and I just
That's
stapled
all.
it together
And then you wanna take time to try to get that to stick.
in a stick.
Good idea.
Hand it to Carl, he'll leave her sticker, the buttons will be broke off of it.
Oh, it's okay.
Okay. Your thoughts on,
I have no objections to it.
no objections?
Nope.
My thoughts on it, with the backup that she has of all the other class acts that we've had that have been against it, I also have no objections to leaving it on the ballot.
So then you guys, what you're saying, just clarify here for the record. So what you're saying is you are going to deny his objections and leave them on the ballot, or you're going to remove them from the ballot? And
Statement, Linda?
I would deny it and leave them on the ballot. It said, we need all the people to run and they need to be working together for the community, not against the community, so.
Same here.
Yeah, my decision is the same, I deny the petition. From Randy.
Objection.
My rejection.
Objection. Objection. Correct, and thank you.
so I wrote two versions, this is one, and I have the other one on the computer, so this version would read, the name of the case, the election board having met and hearing testimony and evidence in this matter finds as follows. Number one, the board has jurisdiction over the subject matter of this action. Number two, the board has reviewed the relevant case law and statute in this matter. That the board has heard arguments, testimony, and reviewed the petitions of objection in this matter. Or that the board finds the petitioner or objector has failed to meet the burden to remove the respondent candidate from the ballot for the election held on April 6, 2021. And that the board finds the respondent candidate meets the requirements necessary to be listed as a candidate on the ballot for the municipal election to be held on April 6, 2021. For each of the petitions, is that what you guys wanted to say?
Yes, Linda?
Yes.
And so then you need to, somebody needs to make the motion for that ruling, and then you guys need to individually vote on that.
I make a motion that we leave,
Three different cases.
let's do all three of them at the same time. I make a motion that we let all three of these, petitioners be on the ballot for the April 6, 2021 election. It would be Randall Lee D. Wallace, case number 2021-EB-01. The second one would be D. Rex Koonsman, case number 2021-EB-02. And the third be Danny Bridges, case number 2021-EB-03.
Give me a second.
I'll second the motion.
You need a roll call.
Carl,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Lenny, yes.
Then, these rulings will need signed, copies of them will need provided to Mr. Wallace and Mr. Rogers. Same for Mr. Bridges, Mr. Rogers, and for Mr. Koonsman and Mr. Rogers. So now you're to the public comment.
Do you have any comments from the public that's here today?
I just wanna make it,
I need your name.
Albie McQueen.
Was it?
Albie, A-L-V-A McQueen. I think if this is gonna be the norm here, where we're gonna challenge ballots, and I'm not saying it's gonna happen every time, what's wrong with putting a packet together with instructions on how to fill out the ballots?
There
Then you have no problem.
if I may,
Yeah.
there is already a candidate's guide that the state puts out, the election committee puts out. It is an advisory guide. Technically, as a candidate, you're required to know the law. The law is, let's see how many pages. No, the law itself is 25 typewritten pages. And it depends on what position you're running for. So the guide is 70 some pages. I got it. 70.
What I'm saying is, why can't they just condense that down,
Actually not.
where if it's gotta be in book form, then it's on there that it's in book form, you know what I'm saying?
Well, the case law.
Nobody wants to go through and read 130 pages.
And the guide this year was only 59 pages,
Well.
not 72. So, but it's a discretionary guide, so does the law technically say it should be stapled in book form, or bound in book form? It does. The reality of what they meant when they passed that, when I looked at the legislative intent, was they wanted it bound by an actual book, so it looked like our auditor's report that comes in a bound spiral. The theory goes that that's for every position in the state of Illinois, okay? So, if you're running for judge, you've gotta have a minimum of 500 signatures. You're running for state's attorney in a county this size, you gotta have 20-some odd signatures, okay? The reality is, it depends on what position you're running for. If you're running for state, I need to know how many signatures you gotta have. So, the theory goes that you would have multiple petitions. In our case here, you mostly had one-page petitions. Danny, if I remember right, had 2. I didn't look at the people that didn't get objected to. But my guess is they needed what, Linda, 2 signatures to be legally?
1.7%.
Yeah. So they needed 2 signatures for
Yeah.
the city of Windsor to be on. So usually, they make it for the broad group though. So if you're running for state, you probably got 50 pages of petitioner signatures or more that you want them in numerical order and you want them bound together so there's no missing a page and there's no question about who got the signatures. The reality is you're never going to make it easy enough for any municipality, state, or county level position to just be, oh, this is how it's done, unfortunately. And there's interpretation of the law. Just when I was reviewing, I spent days reviewing the election code and reviewing the case law that's out there. The reality is, there are cases that are out there that went up to the state Supreme Court, that have went up to appellate courts, that went up to circuit courts, all with varying degrees of answers, okay? So, somebody messes up on their statement of candidacy and doesn't list their position they're running for, case law allowed them to be on the ballot.
Mhm.
Somebody messes up their economic statement of interest, which is huge when you're running for office. Somebody put the wrong number down or something, so they made a false statement, still allowed to be on the ballot. Somebody messed up whether it was stapled or bound, still bound in some way, shape, or form, and the case law suggests that it doesn't matter. Somebody mismade numbering a page number, again, Scrivener's error, there was 1 page, not a big deal. It's in the big elections where it really becomes an issue. So, that sounds bad, and I don't mean it to be that
Yeah.
we're not following the law. What I'm saying is, the case law is very specific, and I read this to you guys the last time, I'll read it again. The case law is very specific that the goal is to allow people to be on the ballot. Access to on a ballot is a substantial right and will not be lightly denied, period. So if the courts in the system can figure out a way to make you a qualified candidate and you meet all the other qualifications, which Wyatt didn't object to, okay?
Mhm.
Wyatt didn't say somebody didn't live in town, that would have been a problem. There are very few qualifications for a municipal candidate. Very few legal qualifications in the statute. So, unfortunately, to your answer, it's hard to make a one-shot.
Yeah, well, I
Well,
understand
I was
that,
gonna
but it just, there's gotta be an easier way. Anything to do with the government's gonna be messed up anyhow. Let's just be honest. So, Wyatt thought he was doing the right thing, but it's just basically a waste of time and it cost some money to have this, didn't it? To have these 2 hearings?
Oh, yeah, we're paying a court reporter, you're gonna pay me for my legal fees. Wyatt, if he chooses to file
If he
an
had to miss
objection with
work
this,
and
he can
things
take
like
it to the
that.
circuit clerk, and it's gonna cost him money to file it. If he loses at the circuit court level, then he could have to reimburse the city.
Mhm.
There's all kinds of requirements in the election code. So, these aren't simple hearings, nor are they simple legal arguments.
Yeah, okay, that was the only question I had.
It costs some of the petitioners too to miss work 2 different days.
You're right.
I need your,
100%.
I need your,
Judy Bridges,
say that again, it costs,
She said it
Judy
costs-
Bridges.
She said it costs petitioners money
To miss
work.
thank you.
You did have a good point, Elby, I thought of that myself, but I didn't know how they would.
Well, I get, and when I said government, I'm not talking about this government, I'm talking about all the government. They make it so hard, and I don't understand why, but that's okay.
When you figure it out, let us know.
Well, tried for many years, still ain't got it figured out.
Anybody else have any questions?
Does the state send anything down to even counties? Maybe a little
Judy Bridges.
brochure or a packet that would guide a petitioner on filling out?
What the,
Or do
county,
you have to spend hours on the internet, which a lot of people maybe doesn't even have access to research?
It's 2020.
A simple little ballot. I mean,
the county clerk sent over what I needed to print off. This year they did not send stuff, I had to print off, she sent off over a paper telling me what to print off. On one thing, it said loyalty oath optional. Or the candidates had the loyalty oath with them, and I did not fill that out. So, I mean, so do you go by what the county sends over? I printed off the local officials book, which is about that thick. I printed off another booklet that's 273 pages. Called the state election board, and they tell me it's very complicated. I mean, more than once. I mean, I called up there and that's what I would get. I mean, they helped me the best they could, so.
that's all any of it. I mean, these guys fill these petitions out to the best of their ability.
Yep.
Let's face it. They
Every,
wouldn't have purposely misstated something or did something wrong on purpose. I mean, it's just the way it is. Some may be filling one out for the first time, and never done it before. If you look at the paperwork, it didn't look that complicated.
every year the state puts out a local election officials handbook. Every year there's an election. They put out a local elections official handbook that you can download, it's PDF, this year was 59 pages. They also
Wait a
put,
minute,
Oh, you're picking up.
I'm listening to this and I'm. That's hard for me, believe it or not. Okay, every year there's an election, they put out a local election official handbook that you can download.
from the Board of Elections website, there's also always a new candidate guide that's on there as well. I'm not saying it's easy to read, I'm not saying it's not a little bit of mud, it is.
It's an hour worth of reading.
At least. So, but every year, the State Board of Elections does put out new guides to help the candidate and help the local officials. That's as good as it's ever gonna get, and truthfully, it's a synopsis of what the statute says. That there's always gonna be questions for
Every year there
interpretation.
might be changes. too.
Correct, that's why they do one every year.
And this year you had to get it off the internet. You had to download it. They're saving money.
Anybody else have any questions before we adjourn the meeting?
I just got a pointer for Judy, as far as that handbook, only the first like 25 pages apply to this election. So like it covers every election in the state almost, or at least the beginning portions of how to petition for that election. So the first, I think it was like page 10 to 25 was this specific city council petition. So So it's not like you gotta go through the whole thing to figure out what's going on, what you need to know.
Well, you know, if you
Yeah.
know where to look,
Yeah, that's part of, and that's another thing, it's not something that they hand out, you gotta find it.
Okay, anything else?
Wayne, you wanna stick around for your copy of the ruling?
Yes.
Randy, yes? Rex,
Alrighty, it's been, meeting will be adjourned.
you need a motion.
Need a motion?
I make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second,
Favor aye. Meeting is adjourned.